The galaxy had never been kind to humanity. For 20 long years, the hegemony of Keth had made sure that humans understood their place in the universe. That place was at the bottom. The hegemony was a coalition of 6 ancient alien races who had ruled the stars for thousands of years. They looked at humanity the way a giant looks at an ant. They did not hate humans. They simply did not care about them at all. The war against humanity was not fought with grand battles or massive invasions. It was fought with slow cruelty. Trade ships carrying food to human colonies would disappear. Mining vessels would explode from accidents that no one investigated. When human diplomats traveled to the Galactic Council to protest, they were told to wait. They waited for years. No one ever listened. Captain Alara Vance remembered the day she stopped believing in peace. She was 32 years old, serving as a junior officer on a patrol ship near the border. A distress signal came from a civilian transport. By the time her ship arrived, there was nothing left but debris and bodies floating in the cold darkness of space. Among those bodies were her parents and her younger brother. They had been traveling to visit her for her birthday. The official report called it a navigation error. The transport had drifted into restricted space and been destroyed by automated defenses. Everyone knew the truth. The hegemony had murdered 400 innocent people because they could, because no one would stop them, because humanity was weak. 15 years passed. Alara rose through the ranks. She became known as a cold and brilliant officer who never smiled. She served with distinction in a dozen small engagements against pirates and smugglers. She watched as the hegemony continued to strangle her people. Colony after colony fell silent. Not destroyed, just abandoned. People fled back toward Earth, crowding into fewer and fewer systems. The human territory was shrinking like a dying star. Then came New Eden. New Eden was humanity's proudest achievement. It was a paradise world, carefully shaped over a century into a garden planet where 30 million people lived in peace. Children played in meadows under a golden sun. Artists and scientists and dreamers built a civilization there that represented everything good about the human spirit. The hegemony claimed that terrorists were using New Eden as a base. They presented no evidence. They allowed no investigation. On a quiet Tuesday morning, 12 hegemony warships entered orbit and began their bombardment. It lasted for 6 hours. When they finished, nothing lived on the surface. The oceans had boiled. The forests had burned. 30 million voices had been silenced forever. Earth's government sent a formal protest. The hegemony did not even bother to respond. In the dark halls of power, something changed that day. The leaders of humanity gathered in secret. They had been preparing for this moment for a long time, hidden in the shipyards of Titan. Far from prying eyes, humanity had been building its answer to the hegemony. The ship had no official name in any database. Its construction had taken 12 years. Its existence was known to fewer than 100 people in all of human space. It was black as the void between stars, covered in materials that drank light and returned nothing. Its reactor burned with power that should have been impossible. Its weapons had no names because nothing like them had ever existed before. They called it the Blackstar. Captain Alara Vance received her orders on a cold morning in the underground bunker where Earth's true military command was hidden. Admiral Chen, an old man with tired eyes, handed her a single data chip. "You know what this is," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. You know what we're asking you to do." Alara thought of her family, drifting among the stars. She thought of 30 million people who had woken up on their last morning without knowing it. She thought of every human who had ever begged the galaxy for mercy and received only silence. "I know exactly what you're asking," she said. "And I accept." The crew of the Blackstar was assembled in secret, 4,200 volunteers, each one selected for their skills and their scars. Every single one of them had lost someone to the hegemony. Every single one of them had spent years dreaming of revenge. Now they would have their chance. Commander Marcus Chen was the tactical officer. He had lost his wife and daughter when a refugee convoy was destroyed near the Thessari border. Lieutenant Sarah Kim was the chief engineer. Her entire graduating class from the Naval Academy had been killed when their training ship was ambushed during what should have been a peaceful exercise. Dr. James Wright had watched his hospital ship be refused permission to rescue survivors from a battle, forced to listen to their distress calls until they went silent. The ship's artificial intelligence was called Erebus. It was the most advanced computer system humanity had ever created, capable of processing more information in 1 second than a human brain could handle in a lifetime. Erebus had been designed with one purpose: to give the Blackstar every possible advantage in combat. It had no feelings about this purpose. It simply existed to fulfill it. On the day of departure, Captain Vance walked through her ship one final time. She touched the cold walls and felt the hum of power beneath her fingers. This vessel was a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was also a tomb. She knew that many of her crew would not return from this mission. She might not return herself, but that did not matter. What mattered was that the hegemony would finally learn what humanity was capable of when pushed beyond all limits. She reached the bridge and took her seat in the captain's chair. Around her, her officers were at their stations, faces grim and determined. Through the viewscreen, she could see the stars waiting for them. "All hands," she said, her voice carrying through every corridor and compartment of the ship. "This is the captain speaking. For 20 years, we have been told that we are weak. We have been told that we do not matter. We have watched our people die while the galaxy looked away. That ends today." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We are not going out there to negotiate. We are not going out there to protest. We are going out there to make the hegemony understand something they have forgotten. There is a price for cruelty. There is a cost for murder. And humanity has come to collect." The bridge was silent. Every crew member felt the weight of this moment. 30 million souls are watching us, Captain Vance continued. "Every person we have ever lost is with us now. We carry them in our hearts. We carry them in our rage. And we will not let them down." She turned to her helmsman. "Take us out. Set course for the Virathi checkpoint." The Blackstar's engines hummed to life. Slowly, the massive vessel began to move, sliding out of the hidden dock like a predator emerging from its cave. The darkness of space welcomed it like an old friend. As they cleared Titan's orbit and prepared to enter slipspace, Captain Vance allowed herself one small smile. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had waited 15 years for this moment. The hegemony wanted a war, she whispered to herself. Now they have one. The stars stretched and blurred as the Blackstar jumped into slipspace, leaving behind everything humanity had known. Ahead lay the unknown. Ahead lay battle and blood and death. Ahead lay the beginning of the end for the greatest power the galaxy had ever known. They just did not know it yet. The Virathi checkpoint was the most heavily defended position on the border between human and hegemony space. For 6 years, no human vessel had passed through it. Those that tried were turned back or destroyed. The Virathi, one of the 6 founding species of the hegemony, considered the checkpoint their personal trophy. It was proof that humans knew their place. Admiral Tirax stood on the command deck of his station and looked out at his fleet. 40 warships floated in perfect formation, each one capable of destroying a dozen human vessels. Behind them, the massive station bristled with weapons and shields. Tirax had commanded this post for 3 years, and in that time, not a single enemy had even scratched his defenses. He was bored. The humans had been quiet lately. Ever since New Eden, they had pulled back from the border. Tirax had hoped for some kind of response, some futile gesture of defiance that he could crush. But there had been nothing. Just silence. The humans had finally accepted their fate. Then his sensor officer spoke, and everything changed. "Admiral, we have a contact. Single vessel. Emerging from slipspace at the edge of the system." Tirax turned, mildly interested. "Configuration? Unknown, sir. The ship is not matching any profile in our database. It appears to be human in origin, but the design is unlike anything we have on record." A smile crossed the Admiral's alien face. "Finally, something interesting. Hail them." Standard challenge. The communications officer sent the message. For a long moment, there was no response. Then a human voice filled the command deck. "This is Captain Alara Vance, of the USS Blackstar. We are passing through this checkpoint. You will not stop us." Tirax laughed. The sound was harsh and cold. Around him, his officers joined in. One ship? One single human ship demanding passage through his checkpoint? It was almost insulting. "Human vessel?" he replied, still chuckling. "You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Your ship will be impounded and your crew will be taken into custody. If you resist, you will be destroyed." "This is not a negotiation." There was a pause. Then the human captain spoke again, and this time there was no fear in her voice. There was only ice. "Admiral, I am going to give you one chance. One chance to surrender your station and your fleet. One chance to walk away alive. I suggest you take it." Tirax stopped laughing. No human had ever spoken to him like this. For a moment, he felt something strange, an unfamiliar sensation. Then he pushed it aside. It was impossible. It was absurd. He was not afraid of one human ship. "Destroy them," he ordered. 40 warships opened fire. Thousands of weapons lit up the darkness of space, sending beams and missiles and torpedoes racing toward the lone vessel that had dared to challenge the hegemony. It was enough firepower to crack a moon. Nothing could survive such an assault. The Blackstar survived. Tirax watched in disbelief as the human ship slipped through the barrage like a shadow through sunlight. Missiles that should have hit their target exploded harmlessly against shields that glowed with impossible strength. Energy beams bent around the ship's hull as if deflected by some invisible force. The Blackstar did not even slow down. Then it fired back. The first Virathi cruiser died without warning. One moment it was there, launching another wave of missiles. The next moment, a beam of pure white light cut through it from bow to stern. The ship split in half and exploded in a ball of fire. The second cruiser followed 3 seconds later. Then the third. Then the fourth. "All ships, concentrate fire," Tirax screamed. "Bring that thing down." But his fleet was already in chaos. The Blackstar moved through them like a predator through a herd of prey. It was impossibly fast for its size, dancing between the heavier hegemony vessels and striking with terrible precision. Every shot hit. Every hit killed. On the bridge of the Blackstar, Captain Vance watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. Around her, her crew worked their stations with machine-like efficiency. Commander Chen called out targets. Lieutenant Kim kept the engines running at maximum power. Erebus coordinated everything, processing thousands of calculations per second to keep them alive. "Enemy flagship is attempting to retreat," Chen reported. "No," Vance said simply. "No one retreats today. Target their engines." The Blackstar's main weapon fired again. The beam crossed the distance between the ships in an instant and tore through the flagship's engine section. The massive vessel shuddered and went dark, drifting helplessly. Admiral Tirax stood on his crippled bridge and watched his fleet die. 20 ships were gone, now 25, now 30. His officers were screaming, running, trying to find some way to escape. But there was no escape. The human ship was everywhere, its weapons never stopping, its shields never falling. In 11 minutes, it was over. 40 warships had become 40 clouds of expanding debris. The station's defensive weapons had been methodically destroyed. Admiral Tirax was alone, surrounded by the wreckage of everything he had commanded. The human captain's voice filled his bridge once more. "Admiral, your fleet is gone. Your station is defenseless. I am going to give you a choice. You can surrender now and live. You can tell your hegemony what happened here. You can explain to them what humanity did with one ship. Or you can die with the rest of your command. Choose quickly." Tirax looked at the view screen. The Blackstar hung in space, dark and silent, waiting. It had not taken a single hit. It had destroyed 40 of the finest warships in the hegemony without suffering so much as a scratch. For the first time in his long life, Admiral Tirax understood what it felt like to be prey. "I surrender," he said. Captain Vance cut the communication. She sat back in her chair and let out a long breath. Around her, the bridge crew was silent. They had done it. They had proven that the Blackstar was everything it was designed to be. And this was only the beginning. "Open a channel," she ordered. "All frequencies. I want every ship in this sector to hear this." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Captain." Vance stood and faced the view screen. She knew that her words would be recorded and transmitted across the galaxy. She knew that the hegemony's leaders would hear them. She wanted them to. "This is Captain Alara Vance of the United Earth Navy vessel Blackstar. The Virathi checkpoint is now closed. Permanently, any hegemony vessel that enters this system will share the fate of the fleet that tried to stop us today." She paused, letting her words sink in across 1,000 light years. "For 20 years, you have murdered our people. You have burned our colonies. You have treated us like animals to be slaughtered. 30 million souls cry out from New Eden for justice. Today, we begin to answer them." Her voice hardened. "The days of humanity begging for mercy are over. The days of humanity accepting your cruelty and silence are finished. We are coming for you. Not to negotiate, not to protest, We are coming to make you pay for every drop of blood you have spilled. She looked directly into the camera. Run if you want, hide if you can, but understand this. There is nowhere in this galaxy that is beyond our reach. The Blackstar is just the beginning. Humanity remembers everything you have done to us, and humanity does not forgive. She cut the transmission. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Commander Chen spoke, his voice quiet. Captain, they will send everything they have against us now. Vance nodded. She had expected this. She had planned for it. Let them come, she said. We have a lot of work to do. The Blackstar turned away from the ruined checkpoint and slipped back into the darkness between stars. Behind her, the wreckage of the hegemony's pride drifted silently. Ahead of her lay a galaxy that was about to learn a terrible lesson. Humanity was no longer the prey. Humanity had become the hunter. The months that followed the destruction of the Virathi checkpoint changed everything. The Blackstar became a ghost, a legend, a nightmare that haunted the dreams of every hegemony commander. She appeared without warning. A supply convoy would be traveling through what should have been safe space, and suddenly the Blackstar would be there. Weapons would flash, and within minutes, nothing remained but wreckage. A military base would be conducting routine operations, and then sensors would detect the impossible signature of the human ship. By the time anyone could respond, the base was gone. The hegemony tried everything to find her. They sent scout ships to patrol every system. They deployed sensor networks across thousands of light years. They offered rewards for information. Nothing worked. The Blackstar's hull drank light and reflected nothing. She ran cold and dark between attacks, invisible to every form of detection the hegemony possessed. Captain Vance and her crew became living ghosts. They slept in shifts, ate when they could, and spent every waking hour planning their next strike. The war room on the Blackstar was covered with maps and reports, tracking every hegemony military installation within their reach. 17 confirmed kills this month, Commander Chen reported during one of their briefings. 4 supply depots, 2 patrol squadrons, and 11 transport vessels. Vance nodded, studying the holographic map. What about the Keth response? They are pulling ships from the outer territories, concentrating their forces around the core systems. They are afraid. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her console. Captain, I have been monitoring their communications. The Hegemony Alliance is starting to crack. The Thesari have refused to send additional ships. They are claiming they need them for domestic defense. This was good news. The Thesari were the weakest member of the Hegemony, forced into the Alliance centuries ago through military conquest. If they were refusing orders, it meant the fear was spreading. But not everyone on the Blackstar was celebrating. Dr. Wright found Captain Vance alone in the observation deck late one night. She was staring out at the stars, her face lit by distant suns. You should be sleeping, he said. So should you. He stood beside her. I have been reviewing the casualty reports from our attacks. Some of those transport ships were carrying wounded soldiers being evacuated from the front lines. Vance did not look at him. I know. They were helpless. They could not fight back. I know. Wright was silent for a moment. Are we becoming like them? The Hegemony destroyed New Eden because they could. They killed 30 million people who could not fight back. How are we different? Vance finally turned to face him. Her eyes were tired, but there was steel in them. The difference is why we fight. They killed civilians. We kill soldiers. They attacked the innocent. We attack those who serve the machine that murdered our people. Is it clean? No. Is it pretty? No. But this is war. And in war, soldiers die. Even wounded ones? Even wounded ones. Because if those soldiers heal, they will return to their ships. They will follow orders. They will kill more humans. I will not let that happen. Wright had no answer. He simply nodded and left her alone with the stars. But the doctor's words stayed with Vance. She thought about them during the long hours of darkness between attacks. She wondered if she was losing herself. She wondered if the Blackstar was turning her into something she did not want to be. The answer came during their raid on the Korvax station. Korvax was a Hegemony resupply point, heavily defended but not impregnable. The Blackstar had identified it as a priority target. Destroying it would cripple Hegemony operations in an entire sector. But when they arrived, they found something unexpected. Captain, we have a problem, Commander Chen said, his voice tight. The Hegemony has placed human ships around the station. Refugee convoys. They are using them as shields. Vance looked at the tactical display. There they were. 12 human vessels. Civilian ships carrying thousands of people who had been fleeing toward Earth. The hegemony had captured them and forced them into a defensive formation around the station. Any attack on Korvax would kill them too. They are animals, Lieutenant Kim whispered. Using our own people as shields. The hegemony commander of Korvax station appeared on their view screen. He was a Keth, tall and thin, with cold black eyes that showed no emotion. Human vessel, he said. You have 1 hour to withdraw. If you attack this station, you will be responsible for the deaths of your own kind. Their blood will be on your hands, not ours. He cut the transmission. The bridge was silent. Everyone looked at Captain Vance, waiting for her decision. This was the moment that would define what the Blackstar truly was. Vance stood still for a long time. She thought of her family. She thought of New Eden. She thought of the doctor's words about becoming the enemy. And then she thought of the faces of the people on those refugee ships. People who had already lost everything. People who were counting on someone to save them. Chen, she said slowly. What is the complement of Marines we have available? Full complement, Captain. 800 soldiers in powered armor. And our boarding craft? All operational. A dangerous light appeared in Vance's eyes. Then we do not attack the station. We take it. The boarding action was brutal and precise. The Blackstar's shuttles launched under covering fire, slipping past the refugee ships without harming them. 800 Marines in heavy armor hit the station from 12 different entry points. They moved through corridors that had never seen ground combat. Overwhelming defenders who had no idea how to fight humans face to face. Captain Vance led the assault on the command center herself. She had not fired a weapon in years, but some skills never faded. Her rifle spoke again and again as she cleared room after room, her Marines following close behind. They found the Keth commander in his office, trying to destroy his files. Vance shot the console out from under his hands and pressed her rifle to his head. Those refugee ships, she said, her voice deadly quiet. You will order them released. Now, you would not dare harm me. I am a member of the Keth High Command. There would be consequences. Vance smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You used innocent people as shields. You thought that would stop me. You thought I would sacrifice my own people or retreat in shame. But you forgot something important about humans. She leaned closer. We do not play by your rules. We never have. When you put a wall in front of us, we go through it. When you put hostages in our path, we rescue them. When you try to make us choose between our mission and our people, we find a way to do both. She pulled back and spoke into her communicator. Chen, status on the refugee ships? All 12 vessels have been secured. Enemy crews are in custody. Our people are safe. Vance looked back at the Keth commander. His black eyes were wide with something she had not seen before in one of his kind. Fear. Real. Genuine terror. Tell your masters what happened here, she said. Tell them that their tricks will not work. Tell them that every time they think they have found our weakness, we will find a way to make it their own. And tell them this is not over. Not even close. She lowered her rifle and turned away. Take him to the brig. We are leaving. As the Blackstar pulled away from the captured station, Vance returned to the observation deck. The stars looked the same as they always did, cold and distant and uncaring. But something had changed in her. She knew now that there was a line she would not cross. She would fight this war with everything she had. She would make the hegemony pay for their crimes, but she would not become them. She would not sacrifice innocent lives for victory. That was what made humanity different. That was what made them worth fighting for. Behind her, the Korvax station burned. Ahead of her, the war continued, and somewhere in the darkness, the hegemony's leaders were learning that their enemy was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Deep in the heart of Keth space, the High Command gathered in a chamber that had not been used in 3,000 years. It was the war room, built in an age when the Keth had still faced enemies worthy of the name. Since then, it had become a museum piece, a reminder of ancient struggles that no longer mattered. Now it mattered again. Grand Admiral Vethros stood at the center of the room, his dark robes flowing around his thin body. He was the supreme commander of all hegemony military forces, the most powerful warrior in a coalition that spanned half the galaxy. And for the first time in his very long life, he was afraid. The situation is unacceptable, he said, his voice cold and controlled. One human ship has destroyed 47 of our vessels. It has raided 19 installations. It has captured Korvax Station and freed prisoners from our custody. Our allies are losing faith. The Thesari have withdrawn from the coalition entirely. The others are asking questions we cannot answer. The other members of the High Command shifted uncomfortably. They had ruled the galaxy for millennia. They had crushed every species that dared to challenge them. But they had never faced anything like this. How is this possible? Asked Admiral Tikon, commander of the Virathi forces. Our technology is superior. Our numbers are overwhelming. How can one ship do this? Because they built something we did not believe they could build, Vethros replied. We underestimated them. We thought they were primitives. We thought they would accept their fate quietly. We were wrong. He activated a holographic display showing the Blackstar's path of destruction across hegemony space. The humans have created a weapon that our sensors cannot track, that our shields cannot stop, and that our fleets cannot destroy. Every engagement has been on their terms. They choose when to fight and when to vanish. We are not fighting a war. We are being hunted. Silence filled the chamber. Then what do we do? Tikon asked. Vethros smiled. It was a cold, cruel expression that had no warmth in it at all. We set a trap. We give them something they cannot resist. Something that will draw them out of hiding and into a battle they cannot win. He changed the display. A new image appeared showing a remote system deep in Keth territory. Our intelligence suggests that the humans believe we are developing a biological weapon at this research facility. A virus designed to target human DNA. The intelligence is false. We planted it through channels we knew they would intercept. Understanding dawned on the faces of his commanders. You want them to attack the facility, Tikon said. I want them to try. When they arrive, they will find something waiting for them. Every ship we can spare, every weapon we can deploy, 2,000 warships from every member species of the hegemony, hidden throughout the system. When the Blackstar arrives, we will surround them. We will trap them, and we will finally destroy them. The plan was set in motion. Captain Vance received the intelligence 3 weeks later. A Thesari defector, now secretly allied with humanity, brought her the information. A Keth research station. A bioweapon designed to kill every human in the galaxy. The coordinates and defensive layout of the facility. She studied the data in her quarters, alone. Something felt wrong. The information was too clean, too perfect, too convenient. But could she ignore it? If the bioweapon was real, it could mean the end of her species. Every man, woman, and child wiped out by a disease they could not see or fight. She could not take that chance. Commander Chen shared her concerns when she presented the mission to her senior staff. This could be a trap, he said. The hegemony knows we have been hitting their military targets. They might be trying to draw us out. Agreed, Vance replied. But consider the alternative. If we do nothing, and the weapon is real, we lose everything. If we investigate, and it is a trap, we face a battle. I would rather fight a battle than allow my people to be exterminated, Dr. Wright spoke up. And if we cannot win this battle? Vance looked at her crew. These people had followed her for months through impossible odds. They had fought and bled and watched their friends die. They deserved the truth. Then we die fighting. The same way we have always been prepared to die. But we take as many of them with us as we can. And maybe, just maybe, we weaken them enough that Earth has a chance. The bridge fell silent. Every face was grim but determined. Set course for the Keth system, Vance ordered. The Blackstar jumped into slipspace. They emerged at the edge of the system 3 days later. For a moment, everything seemed normal. The research station hung in orbit around a barren moon. A handful of defensive platforms surrounded it. Nothing that the Blackstar could not handle. Then the trap was sprung. Space itself seemed to tear open as ships appeared from every direction. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Virathi cruisers and Keth dreadnoughts and vessels from species the Blackstar had never encountered. They emerged from hidden positions behind moons and asteroids and cloaked stations. In seconds, the Blackstar was surrounded by a sphere of 2,000 warships. All stations. Report, Vance commanded, her voice steady. We are completely surrounded, Chen replied. No escape vectors. Enemy weapons are locked on our position. Shield status? Fully charged. But Captain, against this many ships, they will not last long. A communication signal came through. Grand Admiral Vethros appeared on the view screen, his thin face twisted in triumph. Captain Vance, we finally meet. You have caused the hegemony a great deal of trouble, killed many of our soldiers, damaged our reputation. For this, you will answer. Vance did not flinch. And what are your terms? Terms? Vethros laughed. There are no terms. Surrender your ship. Your crew will be given merciful deaths. Quick and painless. Refuse, and we will tear your vessel apart piece by piece. We will take our time. We will make it last. Choose. Vance looked at the tactical display. 2,000 ships. More firepower than humanity had possessed at its height. There was no logical way to survive this battle. She turned to face her crew. Every eye was on her. Every heart was beating with the same mixture of fear and determination. These were her people. They had trusted her with their lives. She would not betray that trust. All hands, she said, her voice carrying through the ship's speakers. This is the captain. The hegemony thinks they have trapped us. They think their numbers mean victory. They have forgotten something important. She stood tall, her shoulders back, her eyes blazing. They forgot that we are human. We crawled out of caves and conquered our world. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed us. We went to the stars not because it was easy, but because the universe said we could not. And every time someone has told us that we cannot survive, we have proven them wrong. Her voice rose with power and conviction. 30 million souls watch us from New Eden. Every human who has ever died at hegemony hands stands with us now. They are asking one question. Will we kneel? Will we surrender? Will we let these murderers win? She paused. I will not kneel. I will not surrender. And I will not let them win. Today we fight. Today we show the galaxy what humanity truly is. Today we make them remember why their ancestors learned to fear the dark. She turned to the view screen where Vethros still waited. Admiral, I have a message for you and your entire hegemony. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not kneel. And humanity never, ever gives up. She cut the transmission. All hands to battle stations. Helm. Set course directly for the enemy flagship. Maximum speed. All weapons prepare to fire on my command. The Blackstar's engines roared to life. Against all reason, against all logic, against the greatest fleet the galaxy had ever assembled, she charged straight into the heart of the enemy, and the battle began. The universe became fire. 2,000 ships opened fire at once, filling space with enough energy to crack planets. Beams of light crossed and merged, creating a web of death that no vessel should survive. Missiles flew by the thousands, their warheads hungry for the taste of human metal. The Blackstar flew through it all. Her shields flared with colors that had no name, absorbing punishment that would have vaporized fleets. Her weapons spoke in continuous streams of destruction, cutting down enemy ships with mechanical precision. She twisted and rolled through the chaos, using enemy vessels as cover, forcing the hegemony ships to fire on their own allies. On the bridge, Captain Vance held onto her chair as the ship shook from impacts. Around her, warning lights flashed, and damage reports scrolled across screens. Hull breach on Deck 7, Lieutenant Kim shouted. Sealing bulkheads now. Shields at 60% and dropping. Another officer reported. Forward batteries 3 and 4 are offline. Commander Chen added, his voice tight with controlled fear. Vance watched the tactical display. They had destroyed 30 enemy ships, then 50, then 100, but more kept coming. The Blackstar was fighting the battle of her life, and she was losing. Then Chen screamed and fell back from his console as an explosion ripped through the tactical station. Sparks flew. Metal shrieked. When the smoke cleared, Chen was on the deck, his left arm hanging useless and bloody at his side. Dr. Wright rushed to his side, but Chen pushed him away. I can still fight, he said through clenched teeth. He pulled himself to a backup console with his good arm and continued calling targets. Enemy cruiser bearing 037. Concentrate fire, the Blackstar answered. The cruiser exploded, but the damage was building. Hull breaches multiplied. Weapons failed one by one. The shield generators were running at their limits. Erebus calculated their survival time at 23 minutes. Captain, the AI's calm voice said, I have identified an option. The reactor can be overloaded in a specific pattern. The resulting explosion would destroy everything within 100,000 kilometers. It would eliminate the majority of the enemy fleet. Vance understood. Erebus was suggesting they sacrifice themselves to take the hegemony down with them. No, she said firmly. We did not come here to die. We came here to win. She stared at the tactical display, her mind racing. There had to be another way. There had to be something she was missing. Then she saw it. The enemy flagship, Grand Admiral Vethros's vessel. It was huge and heavily armored, but it was staying back from the main battle, protected by layers of support ships. Vethros was directing the fight from a safe distance. Safe. That was the key. The hegemony commanders did not take risks. They ruled through overwhelming force, never putting themselves in danger. They had never faced an enemy willing to do what humans were willing to do. All power to engines, Vance ordered. Every system we can spare. Life support, artificial gravity, everything except weapons and shields. I want maximum speed. Captain? Kim looked at her with confusion. We are going to board the flagship. Silence on the bridge. Then Chen laughed. A harsh sound full of pain and wild hope. You want to capture their commander, he said. Cut off the head. Exactly. If we take Vethros, this battle ends. His fleet will have no leader. His allies will have no one to follow. It is the only way. The Blackstar changed course, diving toward the enemy flagship like a bullet aimed at a heart. Enemy ships tried to intercept, but the human vessel was moving too fast. Weaving through their formations with impossible speed, they reached the flagship in 4 minutes. The Blackstar did not slow down. Instead, she rammed directly into the enemy ship's side, her reinforced bow punching through armor plating and embedding itself in the hull. All Marines, launch, Vance commanded. Take that ship. 800 soldiers in powered armor poured out of the Blackstar's boarding tubes. They flooded into the enemy flagship, fighting through corridors filled with alien defenders. The Keth had never seen ground combat like this. They were warriors of space, not infantry. The humans cut through them like a blade through paper. Captain Vance led the assault on the bridge herself. Her rifle never stopped moving. She had fought her whole career for this moment. Everything she had lost, everything she had sacrificed, everything she had become, led to this single point in time. The doors to the flagship bridge exploded inward. Vance stepped through, surrounded by her Marines. Grand Admiral Vethros stood at the center of his command deck, his guards forming a circle around him. Surrender, Vance said. Vethros looked at her with pure hatred. You think you have won? Even if you take me, my fleet will destroy your ship. You will die here, maybe, but so will you. And without you, your fleet has no leader. Your hegemony has no symbol. Everything you built falls apart. She raised her rifle. Your choice, Admiral. Die here, a forgotten footnote in history. Or surrender, and live to see what your galaxy becomes when humans are no longer prey. For a long moment, Vethros did not move. His guards held their weapons steady. The Marines held theirs. One wrong move and everyone in the room would die. Then, slowly, Vethros raised his hands. All hegemony forces, he said into his communicator, his voice hollow and defeated. This is Grand Admiral Vethros. Stand down. Cease fire immediately. The battle is over. Silence fell across the system. 2,000 ships powered down their weapons. The survivors of the human assault stood among the wreckage, barely believing what had happened. The Blackstar had won. The months that followed changed the galaxy forever. The hegemony, without its supreme commander and with its military broken, collapsed into chaos. The Thessari and 3 other species declared independence and signed treaties with humanity. The Keth retreated to their home systems, a shadow of what they had been. Earth began the long process of rebuilding. New colonies were established. Trade routes opened. For the first time in a generation, human children grew up without fear of the next attack. A memorial was built on the surface of New Eden, where the scars of bombardment would never fully heal. It listed the names of every person who had died in the massacre. 30 million names carved into black stone. At its base, an inscription read, "They thought our silence was weakness. They learned it was patience." The USS Blackstar returned to Earth orbit, battered and scarred but victorious. She would spend months in dry dock being repaired. The dents in her hull would be fixed. The damaged systems would be replaced, but the ship would never be quite the same. She had been through too much. She had seen too much. Captain Elara Vance stood alone in her quarters on the last night before shore leave. Through the viewport, she could see Earth spinning slowly below. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. Home. She thought of her family, dead these many years. She thought of New Eden and the millions who had died screaming. She thought of her crew, those who had survived and those who had not. She thought of the enemies she had killed and the price she had paid. Then she let herself cry. It was the first time she had allowed herself to weep since the war began. Tears flowed down her face, and she did not try to stop them. She cried for everyone and everything. She cried until there was nothing left. When she was finished, she wiped her eyes. She straightened her uniform. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a woman who had been through hell and emerged stronger. There was a knock at her door. "Captain." It was Commander Chen, his arm now in a regeneration cast. "The crew is gathering in the hangar bay. They want to see you." Vance nodded. She took one last look at Earth, then turned away. She walked through the corridors of her ship, past crew members who saluted and smiled and reached out to touch her shoulder. She reached the hangar bay, where 4,000 faces waited in silence. They looked at her with eyes full of respect and love and something close to worship. These people had followed her into the impossible. They had fought beside her against the greatest military power in the galaxy. They had won. Vance stood before them and felt a warmth she had not felt in years. Pride, not in herself, but in them, in what they had accomplished together. "We did it," she said simply. "We showed them what humanity can do when we fight for what we believe in. We proved that courage and determination can overcome any odds. We made sure that New Eden will never be forgotten." She paused. "The war is over, but our journey is just beginning. The galaxy knows who we are now. They know what we can do. And they know that humanity will never again bow to tyrants or beg for mercy from murderers." She raised her fist. "We are human. We are strong. And the stars belong to us." 4,000 voices roared in answer, shaking the walls of the hangar bay, echoing out into the void of space. And somewhere among those stars, the remnants of the hegemony heard that sound and trembled, because humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.